Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 461, and today we're doing battle in a Singleton Gauntlet. And so before we stop and talk about this dumb control deck that we're going to be playing today, the new cards, the spoiler season for Fate's Voyage Onward continues, and we find the first champion in Nilah out of Bilgewater. And right out the gates, you have to kind of assume that this is going to be a pretty powerful champion, right? Over the course of history of Runeterra, all of these two-cost champions have been pretty special and spectacular, and they all have a lot of serious play across pretty much every format, and the card has to be pretty terrible to not immediately fall outside of that space. And so with Nilah, a 5-stat 2-drop is a pretty good deal. She has a keyword and brash and has an attack ability with this slipstream thing putting cards into your deck. And so like right out the gates, you have to assume that she kind of fits into that camp, right? If you're not, don't think I'm serious about what we're saying here. It's like Ahri's been nerfed a million times, Action's been nerfed a million times, Diana and Aleth's are both quite strong, Jax has been nerfed and reworked, Nico kind of sucks, sure, but Nora, arguably one of the most powerful control champions in the game, and then Samira and Seraphine we've seen pretty non-stop since both champions were released. And so, kind of across the board, all of these cards are right in that same space. They either have 4 or 5 stats for 2 mana, and then they all have some kind of upside attached to it. And so just giving it, like the sniff test or the eye test, whatever you want to call it, she's going to be pretty decent. And now how decent that is really kind of up in the air. The first thing I start to think is like, well, she just gets blocked by a 3/3, right? But that's also the same thing that applies to like Elise's and stuff, and you still see a lot of play out of Elise. And so, just like looking at this right from the get-go, I think she's going to be okay. As you kind of look at the remainder of the kit that's coming out of Bilgewater now, you're going to see things like Nilah's Formless Blade. This is the card in the middle of the top row that does 2 damage to a unit, and it can't drop below 1 health. And this is a theme that we're going to continue to see throughout Bilgewater for the remainder of this set. There are some other cards down here, I believe. Not just the Formless Blade. I thought there was at least another card that mentioned dropping the units down to 1 health. Nilah's Flip has it attached in there, but you have to assume that these kind of themes are going to be carrying on, and attacking with brash units isn't going to be that crazy of an idea within a dedicated deck. Also, using these slipstreams throughout the course of every single card game ever made, drawing cards has been good, and it's a pretty good rate to draw 2 cards for 1 mana, and so I think these slipstreams are going to be quite good as well. As we kind of sat around and talked about cards like Wildfire yesterday, the Wildfire being this 1 mana card down here on the bottom right, it's not very good, but the thing we were kind of saying is we've had plenty of time to just play these kind of do-nothing cards, and so I feel like giving up a draw for a turn to pick up one of these slipstreams is also going to just be quite good in and of its own. And so I think Nilah is going to be quite strong. I'm really immediately worried about what she's going to do in Eternal with Twisted Fate, as she has all of these leave your opponent's units with 1 health abilities that just ties into red card, and then everything that else she does is tied into drawing cards with ties to leveling up your Twisted Fate. Like, it's just so immediately obvious that's going to be a deck here in 3 months. But for the current standard season, we'll just have to kind of see how things pan out. And so, what I would kind of rate Nilah as, it's probably going to be one of these like sneaky good cards. It's very easy to see like Samira come in and just completely run over a game, but it's not as obvious seeing stuff like like Seraphine come in and run over a game. Now, it's like playing a 2-cost champion that shuts down 2 attacks from an opponent and adds a card to your hand, and then just threatens to win the game on turn 7 if she flips is exceptionally good. And then just playing your second copy on turn 7 to win the game is, of course, quite strong as well. But like when you think of that early game aspect of Seraphine, you don't really think about how hard you're losing the game, because the opponent just dropped their horned turtle on the board and started drawing cards, and you had to answer it, or it's just going to outright kill you. And that's the kind of space that we find a lot of these 2-drops in. Like, the same thing applies to Action. You put Action on the board, he makes the landmark, he attacks a couple of times. It doesn't really seem like he's doing that much, but it's like you can't block action in combat because he's just going to quick attack you down. He's leveling up that Warlord's Horde and drawing cards throughout the process. Like it's just always like a death by 1,000 cuts as it falls to these kind of cards. And I feel like that's the space that Nilah is really going to land in. You're going to play her, you're going to attack, you're going to put a Slipstream in your deck, your opponent's going to try and interact with her and fail. You're going to play some kind of card that deals damage to your opponent's unit. She's going to get to attack again and not die. And then at that point, it's like your opponent finally answers her, but you've drawn a Slipstream, and that draws into another Slipstream, and now you're up like 4 cards for 2 mana. And it's just like it doesn't seem like she's doing a lot as the game progresses, but it's going to pop off, extremely hard just over the course of the game. And so in that sense, I think she's going to be quite good. She also has a level up ability that doesn't require her to see it or to be on the board. It's something that just naturally happens over the course of the game. Now, you're not going to naturally just draw 16 cards over the course of the game. You have to put in a lot of work to do that, but it is always nice and strong having these level up abilities to where it doesn't have to be seen. And so I think that there's a very strong chance that Nilah is going to be a staple coming out of this next set. And if she was the most played card out of that set, I wouldn't be that surprised. And if Samira hadn't been printed this year, this is a champion that it wouldn't surprise me if this was the most played new champion of the year. And so, again, I feel like she's just going to feel underrated all the time, and it's gonna take you a while to realize that you played Nilah on turn 2 and she won the game for you on turn 7. It just didn't happen immediately, and I think that she's going to be quite strong. And so definitely interesting to see if she can't be the new anchor of Bilgewater, if you will, finally giving them cards that don't suck. And so we'll definitely see with her. But moving on, here at the 4th card on the top row, we have Joy Unending. It gives your allies +1 attack for the round and heals damaged allies for 2. This one sounds like garbage to me, but it's the kind of card that can fit in with like what seems to be the elusive combo decks coming out of this format. And so if you do manage to have a Fizz, and you've got a couple copies of Vic Rash the Exuberant and another rando elusive, and now we're kind of talking about the game of protecting Fizz with a burst spell that also combat tricks all of our units. Like it has like fringe potential for a deck. And so I don't think I'm excited about it. The +1 attack doesn't feel like enough. And then when you're taking these attack abilities and combining it with defensive abilities, it doesn't sound that spectacular either. But we'll just have to kind of give this one a try. You do always get these kind of incidental effects with these heal spells to where it, say, does stuff with Jack and it does stuff with Soraka. And, there's a lot of decks that are kind of interested in doing this kind of thing. And so I'm curious if there's a deck that's not like, I'm playing Joy Unending for the heal, and then the bonus attack is just incidental upside. But I think that that's probably really on the fringe. I think that probably 95% of the time we're playing this thing for the plus attack, and then the 90% of the time beyond that, this is only being played in like elusives decks. And so, not really impressed with Joy Unending. At your top right, Master Lookout. This one is something with the potential to be quite strong. A 2/1 for 1 mana is always playable in aggressively oriented decks. Being able to just pop this off on turn 3 or turn 4 as a 1 mana 3/2 with Brash is not a bad deal, right? If we're playing something like Pirates and we're out here trying to be aggressive and stuff, and we play a Slipstream, so we've drawn 3 cards in the turn, and now we're dropping a Master Lookout and a Marai Warden onto the board. That's a pretty hefty mountain of stats to have to deal with. And so as decks like Pirates are already playing bad cards like Precious Pet, I wouldn't be surprised to see something like Master Lookout be able to fit into that spot, especially if this deal damage to your opponent's units, leave them with 1 health so they can't block a Brash unit kind of thing, really starts to come out and pop off. Down here next, this is just like the dude from Mortal Kombat, right? Didn't Kato? Was it Kayn? Kato? It's not Kato the Arm. Kato the Arms is what this guy is, right? Kato the Arm was the Mortal Kombat guy, right, with the 4 arms, and now you got Kato the Arms, the the dedicant of the challenge. I don't know. I'm getting mixed up in my lore here, but With this one, it has the new keyword on it. And so when I'm summoned, you updraft your hand. You give him +1/+1 for each card updrafted, and then draw 2. And so updraft, I'm not going to pull it up individually. It is an ability to where you shuffle a card from your hand into your deck, and then you reduce the cost of that card by 1. And so he's going to come in, say, shuffle 5 cards in your hand into your deck. You no longer have those cards. The next time you draw those cards, they'll cost 1 less. In this example, the Dedicant of Challenge would come down as a 7/6, giving him that +5/+5, and then you would draw 2 cards to kind of make up for the ones that you just shuffled away. And so with this one, I'm not impressed with this as a combat unit. It's just any time you're looking at a stat-based combat unit, it has to be able to elusive, overwhelm, rally, or even brash. You have to have some kind of way to actually get that damage through your opponent's small units, and this guy just doesn't have it. And so as a combat-oriented style unit like the Trample Cat with the subtypes that was printed in the last set, I don't have very high expectations for this card. He's all going to be very dependent on if this is a card that we play for the updraft and then use it as a blocker. Now, that can be a completely different story, right? If we're on that turn 4, we updraft 5 cards away, and we now have that 7/6 blocker on the board that's really tough to deal with, and then we draw 2 cards and continue moving forward, doing other updrafty kind of things, then that could be realistic. And so, we'll have to see the remainder of the updraft mechanic as this set goes on. You can kind of see the idea to where this is building to. If we updraft a bunch of cards into our deck, they make them cheaper, and then we play slipstreams to draw a bunch of cards. Now that we're drawing a bunch of updrafted cards, all those cards are going to be much cheaper, and we can just, spew a bunch of stuff onto the board. Like, I get the idea, but it sounds very kind of magical Christmas landy to me, to where you're asking for a ton of stuff to go right for this ability to be good. And like at my initial impression, I'm not really impressed. Now, again, we're going to have to see more of these cards in their existence, but just right out the gates from this Dedicant of the Challenge, I'm not super impressed. Last but not least, for the new cards today, we have the Tide Dancer, the 6th cost card here, the second one in the middle row. It is the Nilah boat. It makes sense, right? It's a boat for Nilah, getting your units on the boat. And so when it's summoned, you draw Nilah, great deal. And then each round, when you play your 3rd card, you give your other allies +2 attack and brash for the round. And then if I would gain fleeting, reveal me instead. And so the kind of the idea with the Tide Dancer is if you've managed to shuffle a bunch of these slipstreams into your deck, and then you play them, you draw the Tide Dancer, it gains fleeting, you don't lose it, right? You've just kind of picked up an additional way to draw the cards off of the slipstreams, and then it can draw your other Nilahs and use these combos for the plus attack kind of stuff. And so with this, it's kind of a tough space for me to evaluate. I look at this and I just say, okay, I'm used to seeing Zap Spray Fin. Like, what do we... Oh, I'm sorry, not Zap Spray Fin. Fleet Admiral Shelley, right? The elusive unit, you play 2 spells, you give all of your units +2, or +1/+1. That's the kind of space that I immediately think of when I see the Tide Dancer. Now, it's like, it doesn't have elusive, but it does have this ability to give brash to everything, and so you have the ways to give it some kind of evasive action, and then it has the ability to just boost all of your elusive units. And so, if we're thinking just like in terms of the price we're paying, like, it's 1 more mana than Fleet Admiral Shelley, but this has a lot more value just directly tied up into it. You don't have to risk losing it to your fleeting draws, and then it also just picks the Nilahs up out of your deck. And so I think it's quite powerful. I am a little worried in the direction that these Bilgewater decks seem to be going in, to where it's just like, watch me not interact with you. Like, right? That's exactly what these decks want to do. They want to get down 4 and 5 elusives, or they want to get down 4 and 5 brash units, and then boost everybody up for a big attack and not be interactable or blockable. And so I'm curious to see how that stuff pans out. But at the end of the day, the Tide Dancer is extremely good at that. It has the evasive abilities just directly on it, so you don't even have to use elusives with this. And then the Nilah abilities, assuming that we draw, say, the Tide Dancer on turn 6, and then we play Nilah on turn 7. Having her flipped and then doing brash stuff, and having the Nilah flip give all the opponents minus health so they can't block. It's a very powerful cycle of cards. And so I'm interested to see how this all plays out. They seem quite strong to me. right out the get-go, and it's a definite power surge and power spike in terms of what Bilgewater typically gets, right? Bilgewater just typically gets a bunch of directionless bad cards, and so, good or bad, it is kind of nice to at least see Bilgewater get a bit of direction with all of these extra card draw themes and all of these brash kind of tie-ins. Pretty interesting and pretty good stuff. All right, so back to our dumb control deck. I briefly mentioned in our previous video that I'd been kind of itching to play Seraphine, and this is going to be us finally coming out and doing it. And so to let you really know how to tell if a card is good or bad in Legends of Runeterra, I can very easily show you if we take a look at our mastery, right? And so the cards you should be playing, things like Misfortune and Poppy and Draven and Vayne and Garen, like these are the good cards, right? These are the ones that really and actively belong in all of the decks that you're playing. And then the cards that you probably shouldn't be playing, things like Master Yi and Rise and Seraphine and Set, they're way down here at the 0 mastery, just being a bunch of cards that we never actually play. And so I did want to come in and see if we couldn't mishmash this a little bit, get Seraphine up and running in the deck, get Rise up and running in the deck, and then tie them back to the Plaza Guardian kind of themes. And so, at its core, the deck, it's looking to do the Samira Seraphine kind of Plaza Guardian stuff that you see a lot of, or I should say we used to see a lot of in the Eternal format. And so if you're not super with the idea of what the Seraphine deck is trying to do, you want to flip your Seraphine so that whenever you play a new spell, you get the 2 copies of it. Then you can come down and play Legionary Charge being used to draw your Plaza Guardian. Once you have Plaza Guardian on the board, that's this only card in our deck that's going to be drawn by the Legionary Charge. You can then cast Blood for Blood on it twice, or you can come in and cast Iterative Improvement on it twice. Try and get up to 4 and 5 copies of the Plaza Guardian, and then crush your opponent in a singular attack. As you are out here generating all of these 0 mana Plaza Guardians and stuff, they do make it very easy to flip your Seraphine, or if you haven't flipped if you've already flipped your Seraphine, to come out and generate rallies. The other really kind of big tie-ins with Seraphine are going to be using things like Sputtering Song Spinner, as this should probably be 4 spells out of a singular card, and then if you're getting those 4 spells, 3 of them you're able to duplicate with the likes of Seraphine, and so a lot of combos running around between those two. Now, where we're looking to expand on this idea in the space of Singleton is in 2 separate ways. Number one, we're looking to use Rise, and so Rise, I'm not actually planning on flipping Rise in any of these games. If we do, great, but I don't think that that's realistically going to be happening. The place where we're really looking to use Rise is going to be, number one, taking advantage of the Tellstones, and so if we want Samira to see us play new spells within the game, playing 1 Tellstones and then having the Bilgewater Tellstones turn into a Playful Trickster counts as 2. Or if we say play Piltover Tellstones, get a Progress Day, that counts as 2. And so we have a lot of doubled up ways to level up Seraphine off of a singular card. Now, the next kind of useful thing with these Tellstones is going to be leveling up Victor. And so if we say play the Shuriman Tellstones, then we create the Ruthless Predator. That Ruthless Predator then, counts as a spell towards Seraphine, also counts as a spell towards Victor. If we have Heimerdinger on the board, that's 2 units that we get to generate. And so a lot of very nice and interesting combos between the Tellstones that we get to generate, and then the champions that we're playing here. But we also get a handful of other useful spells along the way by playing Rise. We can play Winter's Touch, we can play Eye of Nagakaboros, just some high quality spells that are going to be a little bit better than the other options we have available. The last thing to call out with this deck is we are playing the Pursuit of Perfection. This is a deck very easy for it to pull off the 20 cards within a game, and it's a card we actually haven't seen too much of in this current format. We haven't gotten blown up by Pursuit of Perfection. It's a card that I typically recommend that you need to be playing something like a Hush or a Bounce spell or something that can just get the cat off of the board, because the 30-30 trample is just going to kill you. And so we haven't seen too much of it in this current format. I think everybody's too excited to be playing Cosmic Call, but the Pursuit of Perfection is a nice finisher if all of these other combos we're trying to pull off don't quite come together. And so that's the deck. That's the what we're going to be doing battle with today. Before the battles begin, we got to go and turn excuse me, I'm losing it, something premium. And I'm like, there's got to be just a ton of options in here, right? We never, we never actually come out and play any of these cards, like Death Lotus, just never getting the level up. The good ones are premium, the bad ones are not so much. I was looking to see if we had a potential unit or something we could level up in here. They aren't quite turning up. Formula is the one that I was kind of hype about as I was initially going through. It's a card I feel like we should be playing more of, but, you know, it doesn't really lend itself to flipping your jinx and then killing your opponent that way. And so it's a bit of a challenge to get the victories with jinx when you got all those extra cards in your hand. All right, though, good stuff. Off to battle. See if we can't change our opinions, change our mind, make ourselves want to play some of these terrible cards. Nope, not gonna happen. What do we got here? Up against Aatrox Vayne. Sounds good to me. I guess Aatrox Kayn Vayne, if you will. And as far as this goes, we're just going to look for our cheap early game plays. High Note and Encore are fine. I'd like to find an early game Seraphine, just stuff to do in the early game to help ensure that we don't die. Acorn's a fantastic addition. Ballistic Bot turning up as well. I appreciate it. I hope you survive, Acorn. You got to get us these super cheap static shocks so you can take down the flea feather trackers that are going to challenge you away. It kind of sucks to have to try and high note this this fleet feather tracker. It's like, ideally, he's just going to play an expensive equipment, and then we get to high note it away after the equipment's on board. Opponent says no thank you to those shenanigans, but that would have been ideal. Now, do we really want to get going with the Seraphine? We don't have a ton of ways to be coming in and leveling up here. I kind of prefer to just take it a little slow with her. Adding in Victor changes things a little bit, but I think we'll probably just want to get the Ballistic Bot on board, start playing Ignitions and stuff, and leveling up our squad from there. Let's see what this Broadwing intends to hook in. We can... You know, if it tries to take down one of our bigger units, we can definitely shrink it with Static Shock and not have to worry nearly as much about it. We want to just let it happen, though. It's like I'm eyeballing the powder keg that we have in our hand, knowing that we can deal the 2 damage to this stuff. I think I'm just going to let it go. Alright, so we can line them up and Static Shock these 2. We lose out on one of these created cards, which is a bit of a bummer, but one must admit that's quite a bit of value that we just unlocked there. You must admit it. I'm forcing it upon you. Not a bad pickup in this matchup with the Hexbliterator as well. It's a deck that should just have a, getting a Kayn and the equipment, or getting an Aatrox and the equipment. All feels pretty good. There's the Aatrox. Think we can just get him? Can we just get him with the Hexbliterator? I'd probably rather wait till he's actually in combat. So I mean, at least if okay, we got to go now. You can't let him get that +1/+1. I was gonna say, if he's at least in combat, if he survives the hook, then we can kind of find ourselves still dealing damage to Aatrox, to where if we hit him right now and then he has 1 health, he's just not going to attack with him. Alright, we're getting close with some of this stuff, though. Let's try and level up our Victor. I don't think we need to drop an Aloof here. It's like he's already displayed his expensive stuff, right? He's already played Aatrox. I don't think I'm ultimately worried about what's coming out of his hand at this point. Like, his top end is all going to be the Dark and equipment, and those all cost 1 or 2 mana.
Still heart, steady
Oh, he doesn't go after Victor. Oh, he does go after Victor. I was like, I don't know about that, my dude. I don't know about that, Fam Jam. So how do we want to approach this? We do have the Death Lotus to potentially pop the Victor or pop the Jarvan barrier. Also, incidentally kills Valor. I think I'm okay with that. The other big one we have is just going to be Song Spinner. That's probably where we want to lead. See if we don't pick up something big here. Purify is kind of useful. Definitely not playing Wish. Can Ruthless Predator our Victor to get him into Jarvan kill range? It's like just like Trixie Tentacles is kind of interesting in this match, given that it can blow up the Darken equipment. So just take the Predator. And then lead and follow will let us return our Victor. Okay. That seems like enough. Gonna be getting those Jarvan cataclysms though. He's coming out the gates pretty hard here.
With utmost efficiency. No materials, no improvements.
What do we got? We hit Challenger on Victor, getting him really close to flipping. We got 2 cards to go. 1 card to go. Alright, now, it's a little worrisome since he can just kind of open Cataclysm into our Victor, but I mean, this is our chance to pop off. We really need to like hit something off of Encore. It's kind of the bummer here. Can play the Clockling and just try and dig for a combat trick. Or not a combat trick, but a removal spell. Our removals don't seem that spectacular here, though. Alright, well, we gotta start trying to pop off another way. I assume this is just immediately coming in. The Cataclysm onto Victor. But I want to be able to Encore here. Just hit Nopify, right? Nope. Okay. Not quite. Not quite. Okay. Bit of a bummer. Would have been nice to have gotten this Jarvan off of the board. Might just be too far behind at this one now. Like, we can't play any of our good cards here. We can't get a follow-up attack with Samira. A bit of a bummer. We're just going to get smoked on the open next turn.
Ours is but to do and die.
We needed you to do more, Victor. Alright, GG. GG. Removals, just not big enough. Alright, who do we got now? Looks like some kind of barrier package. What is this? It's got Karma, Set Jarvan, then Action Nidalee. I don't know what's trying to I don't know what the opponent's trying to do here. But let's get rid of all of this. Again, we want to find some of our early game stuff. A Samira, a Seraphine, a Ballistic Bot. Something to just slap down early. Found him. And aggro. Am I right? This is prime aggro deck right now, getting the fallen feline into combat. What a dumb card. Now this is like interesting. In constructed or normal standard, we would just like slap the Seraphine, right? But knowing that we only get one copy of Seraphine, I'm curious if we should actually be putting her on the board at this point. I don't know. I think we might be okay. Like our hand's not doing anything otherwise, and so let's just go ahead and throw her down. We still have a bunch of other win conditions without the Seraphine combos happening. Oh, swinging glaive shadows in the brush. I wonder what we're about to get into here. It's like, it's kind of annoying as well. Like, I don't want to just get completely zinged by an Avenging Vastaya, but the card that would make the most sense here is going to be the dude that gives out... it's going to be the dude that gives out vulnerable, all-terrain trooper, yeah. Okay, so we can manage that. This costs 1. Maybe it's scarier than I'm giving it credit. Because I don't want to play both Disintegrate and one of the damage cards coming out of our hand. Let's take both blocks though. Like if he chose Disintegrate with the All-Seeing Oracle, I want to leave all of his units with 1 health. Yeah, and then I was gonna say if he picks the Disintegrate, then we've got the 2 1 health bros on board. But the thing I didn't want to do was to play like a Caustic Riff and play. I didn't want to play the Caustic Riff and play the Disintegrate and then have a piece of the combo get hit by the counterspell. And he finds tough. Okay, it's manageable. So what do we got? Ionian Telstones and line them up. I mean, it's another spot to where we can potentially just be doing a giant AoE, right? We can generate the powder keg and then try and AoE everything down. Like, at what point do we decide to go for it? Let's still just wait. I think now we feel okay about it. I guess we don't get the kill on the shadows in the brush, but if that's an Avenging Vastaya, we need these spells to be hitting right now. So we're gonna line them up, or then we'll Caustic Riff, do 2 to everything. It'll leave him with the 1 health shadows in the brush. We can clear off with the knock him down. This is what Prime Bilgewater is all about, isn't it? Don't worry about getting Nilahs on the board, right? Prime Bilgewater is just this stupid powder keg deck. Oh, that's dumb. That's dumb. Now we can go ham with the powder kegs. We got the 2 of them getting generated off of the more powder. All right, let's just pass. It's like if he takes the hook onto the husk, it's fine. I'll follow up with the Chum the Waters onto Set. I don't want to get super involved with Set, but I also don't want him stuck on the board. Got him. right, 5 mana cycle. That's what life's all about. we probably could have just passed a few more times to see if we can't get some more units with these rocket barrages. Oh my gosh. I wonder if he knew if we had the rocket barrage in hand, right? When he played the all-seeing oracle, like how much of that would have been visible to these dum-dums? I'm not certain how that works. Still just going to keep being greedy. So what do we got? Pursuit of Perfection coming in. We got to be close with it. We're at 14 spells. Ooh, and the Priestess gets an extra stat. Oh, ain't she got a spell shield? Oh my god. Okay. Okay. Kind of nonsense champions are we running into here? Karma and Galio and shit. It's Jarvan. Jarvan's manageable. I'd much rather see like Jarvan come down than Galio. I think. He's just hitting with barriers. Just doing all the work.
You dropped something. I dropped everything!
So what do we got? Guiding to just discard Galio. I'd like to just get out of this turn with a couple of units on board and then have a 3-bank into the next turn. I don't think the opponent's going to be able to kill us, but again, that annoying thing that he's able to do is he's going to get that second champion off of the Priestess. Like, this Rocket Barrage kind of sucks. And if you're not familiar with iterative improvement, we can say iterative improvement his Priestess of the Desert Light. You can target the opposing units with the iterative improvement. She wouldn't be terrible with the bonus stats. Maybe that's the angle we should have taken with this turn. Try and fish out one of our champions that way. Oh fuck! Now we got a flipped, we got a flipped Karma to deal with, and it doesn't strike me as a deck that should really be able to take advantage of a flipped Karma. But I mean, it's a possibility. We're just getting fucking domed. Let's pull this back. We're gonna have to Song Spinner as well. Oh shit! Do we have too many cards in hand? Yes. Yes, we do. These cards aren't particularly strong, but oh shit, we fucked that up hard. That's what we get for not playing enough of these cards. Could have gotten out of this a little bit, but sure. All right, GG. It's too bad. Too bad. All right, let's see if we can at least pull out a win with this nonsense. Am I right? We gotta, we gotta get one in or something. We were close to popping off with that pursuit, but yeah, I mean that's tough. I think, like, looking back on it, we probably should have looked to iterative improvement his Desert of the Priestess or Desert of the Priestess Light, whatever it's called. Just in the sense that we don't really want. Or it's just a way to put stuff on the board. We just need to be out there, like, not dying. And then we should be able to fairly safely get that Pursuit of Perfection on board. And it's pretty tough for the opposing faction to deal with. Like, it's, I don't know. It's weird to me see, like, when a deck pops up like that. We talked about this extensively in the last one, in the last video, just seeing a bunch of these decks to where you have, like, 2 combat-oriented champions and 2 champions that do this and 2 champions that do that. And you're just kind of like half-assing a bunch of different strategies. And that's what it looks like to me when you see that. It's like, what are you doing to where, like, Nidalee combos with Karma, that combos with Galio, that combos with Jarvan? Like, there's not really anything that fits the bill for what those cards are all capable of doing together. And so It's just a little curious to me what's actually happening there. But where I'm getting at with that is it doesn't feel super likely that they're going to be hitting us with like a bunch of stuns or a bunch of homecomings or something to interact with a big play on board. All right. Well, this this strikes me as another matchup to where we shouldn't be getting Seraphine involved on the board, and so we just immediately put Seraphine on the board. It makes sense to me, but it makes sense to me. Oh yeah, you gotta hush on our acorn. Poor guy. And a Zoe. I was hoping for a better make it rain. I was hoping we wouldn't heal up the mountain goat, but let's see how this lands. Sure. Alright, well we're about ready to get our defensive rise on the board. He's gonna do the work that he was designed for. Just coming down and just blocking this stuff. Never attacking. I appreciate it, my dude.
Another brilliant design.
God, overwhelm. Generating into a nice victor. Let's just go ahead and pick up the rune prison. We can get Rise on board beforehand, but I think we're going to want to stun this Screeching Dragon next turn. I guess it's not a guarantee we'll pick up the one we want. We didn't. At least we can just kill off Zoe with the Shard of Betrayal. Really hoping to hit the stun there, though. Alright, Rise, do your magic, my dude. Do your magic. Blocking the mountain goats, it feels good. It feels good when you're that useful. I'm very close to flipping Victor, though. Hit lifesteal as well, very nice. Okay. That's annoying. But we'll get Zoe off the board. We can ramp into this next turn. That doesn't strike me as horrible, but it doesn't feel spectacular. Like we need to get a little bit of interactivity happening here. Okay, let's just take the bank. We got High Note Tellstones. That's close. We can like cast a spell onto Captain Erica. We don't have any removals that actually kill her though. What if I think we can just wait on that stuff. This seems like a better spot for the Winter's Touch. You can just pass into this next turn. We can Encore. That'll activate our High Note. We can use the High Note to pop the Spell Shield and maybe damage something else. Like I'm fine with all that. I don't particularly care about protecting Rise or protecting the Tentacle, and so I think we might be able to get a decent combat here. Scrap Assembly didn't make the cut in our deck. It probably should have, you know? Sometimes you just gotta get the blockers with your Jury Rigs and your Scrap Assemblies. Ah. So what's this? He has a Pale Cascade come in? I mean, kind of leaning towards using the Tellstones to hit Transmogulator and switching a dragon into the Tentacle. So he can still get the kill on it. Like it'll die at a high note and keep our Rise alive. Probably have enough value at this point. So let's transform the dragon into a 2/2. All right. Something went right. Feels good. Feels good to have something go right. Cosmic Call. Things don't feel that right anymore. Is he even playing Aurelion Soul? He is, okay. I knew he was playing, like I had in my head that he was playing some kind of Dragon's deck, and it just kind of weirded me out a little bit seeing the seeing that come in. 15 of 20. We're close for the pursuit. Right, well, here was our rune prison. We're almost there. We just got to get to this pursuit of perfection and might be okay. I was like, I just remembered that he played the Cosmic Call, and then I saw the star chart come up, and I was like, that's not how things are supposed to work. It's about time. We're gonna do it. We're gonna pursue perfection this turn. Maybe win a game. Ooh, who knows? Who knows, fam? I can't wait to find out. Oh, he's actually attacking with Erica. It's a bit surprising to me. I think we still probably want to stun the Wyvern. It's just like this feels like a shenanigan, right? It feels like something is up with this attack. And if he's going to be generating bonus stats onto the Wyvern to overwhelm, I don't really want to see that. So we'll drop the Ritual. Now we can drop the Catastrophe. See if that do it. Uh-oh. You don't want to see him immediately put a card down. That's that's kind of off limits, my dude. Oh boy. Incoming Supernova, huh? So many cards that immediately kill us. I don't think his big Celestials are big enough at this point. Well, if you're going to open with Double Serpent, you don't even need them. But I thought we were going to get out of that one unscathed. But damn. GG. And all right. Wow. I'm glad to get that one over with. We can pull this up and talk about it a little bit more. And so I'm admittedly not a great representative of the Seraphine Victor deck, but you know the majority of the stuff is here. I think realistically, if you're wanting to be playing this deck, like the Rise component of it is a little bit too memey. If you're looking to have this be an actual serious competitive deck, you can go and play Targon, and then all of the Targon cards act as created cards to a large degree, and so you can level up your Victors quickly, and then generating star charts helps to level up your Seraphines. Like there's just a lot of combos that come out those directions. But in terms of this in Singleton, I have to imagine that it's so much tougher. Like when we were talking about Nilah in the initial like part of the video, to where it's like she's very interesting in the sense that you can play her on turn 2, you attack, you get the card in your deck, and then it goes to the next turn. Your opponent does something to try and interact with her, right? You say they play a removal spell on her, you play a combat trick, she survives, she gets to attack the next turn, and then your opponent does something to kill her. Now, like with that sequence, she's done quite a bit, right? She's put those 2 cards into your deck, she's gotten mana and spells out of your opponent's hand and stuff, but when it comes to then being like turn 7, turn 8, we can say you played the boat on turn 6, now you want to play the finishing Nilah on turn 7, she's just going to be flipped at that point, right? And so you can play her early and have her do stuff, and then you can play her late and have her do stuff. That's like the exact same thing that you're looking to get out of Seraphine in these decks, is you can play Seraphine on turn 2, she blocks a Legion Rearguard, and the next turn she blocks a Legion Saboteur, and she's put the spell into your hand, she's prevented like 6 points of damage, removed a unit along the way, and then as it gets to being like turn 7, turn 8, your Seraphine, you just drop her and she's flipped, and you can Song Spin her and go from there. And with this style of deck, like with the way that we really have it situated, we really were looking at Seraphine as just like being a card that we played in the early game, and then we could just never wait until the late game to actually get her to flip. And so I think that that's the kind of like main problem with this Rise-based approach we had with all of the Tellstones, is we do need some kind of like early game stuff in here just to fuck around with and block and stuff, and we don't really have that with all of these Tellstones running around. And so with that, I think that that's where the problem goes. But the thing that I will say that I was most impressed of with this, the way that this deck came together, was the usage of Line 'em Up and the usage of the Bilgewater Tellstones to generate those powder kegs to make the AoEs extra strong. Like I'm curious about maybe playing this style of deck with Twisted Fate, and then having access to some of the powder kegs, as opposed to always just going after the Plaza Guardian style kill. But like I would think it's probably fairly safe to say at this point that the Plaza Guardian kill just isn't really worth chasing after. We're probably, I think, much better suited, if you're going to be playing this style of deck, to either jump into Targon for the Cosmic Call and Zoe and Aphelios package, or play Back Alley Bar. And then you can do Back Alley Bar stuff and have that be your kind of kill pattern, as opposed to playing all of these cards that kind of work off of the Plaza Guardian combo. Don't ask me, I don't play these cards, I'm just I'm just out here informing the masses of way these things may or may not work. But nonetheless, good set of games. I had fun with that. I hope you did too, because that is going to do it for us today. So I hope everyone enjoyed the video. Hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way, and you had a good time watching. So this is Bust, and we thank you for being here.